This next radio is one of a few radios that I had acquired from a store that had closed its doors and been out of business, and the inventory was just sitting there for quite a few years. And then I came along and was able to buy it. The building was unheated for years. This radio is probably new old stock. I don't think this was ever sold. The box is a little rough here. It's, you know, got some signs of wear, but inside everything appears to be all original. This is a Uniden Pc 33 40 channel. This is a small 40 channel radio. Got the microphone in here. It's the clip to hang the microphone on. The mounting screws and everything for the bracket to mount it in the vehicle. The microphone's still in the original plastic. Yeah, this has definitely never been used, never been taken out and installed. It's brand new. So being that this is a brand new radio, I mean, it's possible that it could have an issue because, again, you know, electronics can go bad just from sitting on a shelf from age, mainly due to the fact that they employ capacitors that can, over time, go bad even without use. You also could have bad solder connections and things like that that could happen over time. But I would be not surprised at all if this radio worked perfectly fine. There's the original owner's manual, still sealed in the plastic. These radios, I've seen this radio sell for as much as $40 on eBay, but even that one, it was being sold. The description, it had the box and everything, but the description said that it was missing a fuse and had not been tested and was being sold as is. And the radio and the microphone and everything, even though they were in the styrofoam still, they were not all still sealed in the plastic. Whereas, you know, and that would give me some alarm to wonder why wouldn't the fuse be in here? This is going to have a fuse in it from the factory, so that this thing's ready to go. Kind of weird that the fact that that radio was missing a fuse. So this one, I would think, would be at least worth the $40 because it's a better example of a new old stock radio than that one. That being said, it's just a little AM 40 channel mobile, but it does have some vintage to it, and there are collectors out there. Next radio we got up on the bench is a Sears Road Talker 40. Now, I don't know who Sears had making their radios for them back in the day. At one point I thought it might have been Midland, but I don't know for sure. But this radio is, other than being dirty, I used this radio for quite a few years. Unlike some of the other radios that I've acquired that I've never actually had on the air. This one I did have set up in a service van that I used years ago, and it was really a great radio. This has got the 5-pin layout. It's like a 5-pin DIN type plug. Unfortunately, I can't locate the microphone for this, so we're gonna have to just check and see whether or not it receives and puts out any wattage on a dead key. This radio has not been powered up in years, so let's see what we got going. So just a quick look at the radio again before we power it up. This little like black bezel or whatever it is here is loose. See, the glue has failed, so that's actually aluminum, so that can just be tacked and back into place with just a little bit of glue. That's an easy repair. We've got this radio has a built-in SWR meter, and of course noise blanker, It's got the PA. It's got a transmit light, but it also has a modulation light, which flickers as you talk. And it's a 40 channel LED readout right here. It has a fine tuning, which oftentimes on radios they'll call that a delta tune, which is always kind of funny when I see these, because pretty much in modern transceivers using phase locked loops, it's very unusual for somebody to be slightly off frequency unless they've got an issue with their radio. So this is kind of pointless, but this often ends up being a spot where if somebody mods the radio and adds extra channels and things like that, this would be a prime location to maybe put something in there. Or if, like, say if you wanted to put slider capability so that you could slide between channels, something like that. That might be a good use of that knob. We got a squelch. Of course, we've got a dual purpose knob here. The outside is for the SWR calibration, and then the RF gain, we already talked about what that does, and the on-off volume. So this has supposed to have an unusual plug that plugs in here that I never had, and I basically just used spade connectors, 1/4 inch spade connectors to make my connections on this thing, and that always worked out just fine for me. Never had any issues with it. All right, completely dead, so we have either a bad connection here or, oh, we've got a missing fuse. So I'm going to again, we're going to hook directly. We're going to rely on the power supply's current limiting capability. And unfortunately, it looks like something has happened to this radio while it's been in storage, because, oh, wait a minute, I've got it on PA. There we go. Channel select readout seems to be working. I'm going to take a couple minutes to do a little bit of hunting and pecking to see if I could figure out which combination of pins I have to trigger on this thing to get it to receive. Okay, so what I did is I checked continuity with the power off between all 5 pins and the negative power lead, which would be ground. And I found the pin that had the lowest resistance, and I know that's the ground pin. Sometimes more than one pin will be grounded, but in this case only one of the pins was ground. So now, because of the DIN plug, it's got very small holes, so I've inserted a pin into there, and now I'm going to use a jumper wire, and I'm going to probe. I'm going to go from the ground pin that I've inserted, and I'm going to take the jumper wire attached to another pin, in this case a small drill bit, small enough to reach into those holes, and I'm going to go around and I'm going to watch the front as I do this. Now if the red light if the transmit light comes on, I'm going to immediately stop, pull it out, because I don't want to transmit right now. I don't have an antenna or anything hooked up. There we go, receive. We've still got the Cobra 90 LTD sitting up here, just out of camera shot. Yeah, I'd say receive is working on this radio. So let's hook up the dummy load and watt meter. Alright, just double check, make sure I am still on power. Yeah, alright, so let's see if that's receive. Let's try this pin. There we go, that's the transmit right there. A little low, about 3.5 watts. Just going to check the SWR again. Yep, low SWR on our setup, so that's still good. It looks like about 3.5 watts, dead key. It's funny, my other watt meter over here is actually working correctly today. Last night it was having issues, and that one is, yeah, it's like pointing right to the 3.5 watts, so it's agreeing with this meter, which is good. But last night that thing was going crazy. Alright, so I would say we've got another working radio here. Just need a needs to have a wire microphone wired up to it, and this little bezel here glued back into place. Just for the heck of it, I hooked up our lousy indoor antenna there, and definitely getting a lot of noise. Squelch is working. RF gain works. I really think if this antenna was outside, we probably would be getting a signal. At least maybe some skip. Next radio up we have is a Royce base station. This is a Royce model AM transceiver 1-621, I believe. Yeah, 1-621. So this is, again, straight AM, no sideband. Take a quick look at the front. We got an on-off power button, PA, CB button. We have the noise limiter, same as an A&L or noise blanker. Volume control. That feels a little funky. Squelch, that feels good. Tone control, that's something you don't see very often on a lot of radios. That's actually, I think, a handy feature. You've got like, sometimes you run into instances where some guys are running power mics that have a lot more high frequency, and if you want to take some of the sharpness out, tone control could be handy for that. And then we have another tune, like this delta tune or fine tuning for the receive. We've got a receive light and a transmit light. And we've got the LED readout over here and the 40 channel selector. It's a compact little base station. On the back we have a chassis mounted fuse holder. Of course we've got the antenna input. We've got an external speaker jack, and we have the PA speaker out. Over here we have a plug hanging off that would use a special molded plug to plug into there, which would allow you to input 13.8 volt DC here to run the radio off of a car battery or car system. So this radio was designed so that if you wanted to run it in a mobile, you could. This switch over here decides whether or not you're using DC, which would be, it's looking for 12 volts here, or AC, meaning that you're plugging it in with the cord and using the internal power supply. We've got a couple of screws missing from the cover in the back, but the screws in the top of the cover are present. I don't think I've ever had this radio on the air. Probably took this trade or something a while back. Totally forgot about it. Alright, so we are plugged in. Let's see what we get. Oh, this is not a LED readout. This is probably an earlier 40 channel, closer to the transition, because you don't see a lot of 40 channel base stations with a completely analog channel selector. So that's interesting. All right, got it. Actually got it hooked up to the indoor antenna here. Again, I don't expect to get any signals other than noise, but at least we can see what's what here. So let's figure out that pinning again. That's transmitting. Okay, so it looks like they're using pin 1 as the ground or control, also the shield for the microphone input. Pin 2 appears to be the actual microphone audio in, and 3 and 4 on the bottom here are transmit and receive. So I should be able to get Oh, I see, I had this backwards. Yeah, so we want to be on these 2 pins for receive. There we go. Receiver's working. I just keyed the Cobra 90 LTD with, well, no antenna or anything hooked up to it, so I only did it for a quick second. I'm sure that if I had everything hooked up, I would probably have gotten feedback like before. Anyways, so I know that this is receiving. I don't know how well it's receiving, but at least it's not a dead receiver. And as bad as this volume control feels, it actually works. Squelch is working. But that noise limiter really works well. All right. I'm going to hook up my watt meter and we're going to see if we can get something out of this. All right. Let's do a transmit test. And just a hair under 4 watts dead key. It's actually closer to 4.5 watts on my other watt meter over there. So there we have the example of how my watt meter over there is not behaving. Oh, hold on. That's 4 watts. I'm having trouble getting a good connection here. There we go. Come on. Obnoxious. That's like dead on 4 watts. All right. And the final radio we're going to look at from my collection today is this Cobra Model 29 Plus. This radio is another one of the brand new old stock, never sold radios. So back in the 80s, I think, was when this radio came to be in the inventory of this store originally, and they put it out for sale, and they actually were trying to get $179.97. That's what they priced this radio for, which is an exorbitant amount of money for this radio back then, which is why it never sold and sat in that store until the doors closed. And that's how it came to be in my possession, because it should have sold a long time ago. That's what makes it such an unusual thing. A box, you can see the box is really sun faded, and it doesn't look so great, but it should be just like that Uniden Pc 33 that we were looking at. It should be in new old stock condition. You can see the original bracket is here, the power cable is in there, all the hardware still packed in the foam and wrapped in the plastic. We get the other styrofoam insert in that end. Ah, yes, check it out. The CB Citizens Band Radio Services Rules, Part 95.401, Part 95, Subpart D of the FCC regulations. This is the part of the FCC regulations that regulates the use of the Citizens Band. So, interesting. June 3rd, 1983, the effective date of these rules. How to operate a CB. So this is kind of neat, but that's in there. We've got bill of material for Cobra 29 Plus. Oh, this is cool. That's a very descriptive parts list and schematic. So if you needed to service this, you'd be all set. Here's your authorized service center list in case you needed it repaired under warranty or whatever. And here's the original warranty registration card. And here's the radio. So, you know, completely wrapped. So this is going to be basically in mint condition as far as cosmetically. So that's really cool. These radios in good used working condition on eBay bring about 50 bucks. So, you know, you can imagine what one in mint condition would be able to bring. So the only thing I didn't see was the microphone. It must be hidden behind here in this large foam. Yeah, it's right there. So I'm not going to dig it all out because it's obvious to me that everything is here. Here's the little thumb screws for attaching the bracket, all of that. So that's it. We're going to call this video a wrap. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me go through and look at these old CB radios, and I'll probably do some more down the line because this is, like I said, I lost count of how many radios we went through today, but I probably went through most of the mobile radios that I have, but I still have some base stations, and eventually we can get up to the really cool ones, the big boat anchor ones. All right, if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel, and if you like this video, please hit the like button. Take care.